future's coming, and it's coming faster than those people realize. We're very close to cracking the code. If you look at AI and robotics, they are taking our jobs. And when you think about Bitcoin, or as you mentioned, digital gold, think of that as the first application utilizing this new database architecture, which is distributed in nature.
Do you have maybe a question that you find yourself asking over and over again?
What we did in the time that we were here and how we left the world for the generations that follow. I believe that every one of us is here for a reason, and I believe that, we all matter.
Today, our guest is Brock Pierce, one of the well-known entrepreneurs in the world of cryptocurrency and blockchain, futurist, venture philanthropist, and creator. Brock Pierce is one of the co-founders of the stablecoin Tether, USDT, which today is considered one of the key elements of the crypto market. He has also played a notable role in the development of the EOS ecosystem and has been involved in numerous blockchain and Web3 projects as an investor and advisor. Beyond business, Brock Pierce is actively engaged in philanthropy and impact investing, supporting projects that use technology to improve people's lives. He also maintains an active international presence, taking part in initiatives and collaborations across different countries. In 2020, he even ran for president of the United States as an independent candidate, promoting an agenda focused on the future, digital currencies, and new forms of economy.
Brock Pierce, we're so glad to have you with us today.
No, I'm glad to be here.
Today we're going to talk about your life, the values you live by, your journey, and the future you personally want to see. We are so excited to talk about this today with you. And I would like to start with the question. Basically, it's well known that you started your career as an actor when you were just 3 years old, right? And you retired at the 17 years old. And basically, you made this really bold transition, right? And you said that you wanted to be a creator. And the question is that, what does it mean to be a creator for you now? And when you take any new projects, what makes to take this new projects on?
Well, I'll start with the last question first. Everything I do has meaning, purpose, intention. And so either it's to create things that are going to make the world a better place for the generations that follow, or in some instances, it's the equivalent of me going to school. So I'll sometimes do things as a way of learning in preparation to something bigger that will likely be in that same field. And so that's how I determine what I'm going to do, in terms of what it is to create. I guess that kind of answers the same question. It's, I would say I'm not confined by reality as it exists. I have a gift that allows me to see the world for what it can be, which is how I can create things that are not currently present.
And you're recognized as one of the most influential figures in the early cryptocurrency movement, right? And as an early investor in the Bitcoin and a key founder of Bitcoin Foundation, you helped lay the groundwork for the entire industry. And you also co-founded Tether, USDT, the world's most widely used stablecoin. And basically through your firm, Blockchain Capital, you help fund dozens of the pioneering startups, right? So, but still, many people actually don't understand, what is the blockchain. And here I really wanted you would explain in the simple terms, what does it mean? So people will not just, underestimate, because a lot of people are still thinking that in terms of digital goals, the finance, but missing fact is that it is fundamentally, revolutionary way to store and secure data as well, right? Maybe you can elaborate on that and communicate it to the viewers, just how you can say what is the blockchain and why it's actually can be the function of so-called ledger of truth and in the digital age, and why it's so important.
I mean, I think you covered a fair amount of it in that question. The blockchain is, yes, a database at its core. It's a distributed database. So when you think about Bitcoin, or as you mentioned, digital gold, think of that as the first application utilizing this new database architecture, which is distributed in nature. And that distributed architecture makes it incredibly resilient, very secure in terms of on sort of hackable. And so the benefits of that structure is that it's resilient, incredibly secure, but also immutable, meaning that nothing can be edited. When you think of normal things on the internet, it's read, write, right? When something has been written into this database, it's immutable, it's there forever. Meaning, you mentioned a single source of truth. So if we want to write information into it, history or his story is written by victors. And so the concept when we say single source of truth, anything that has been and written into this database will be there as long as we've got electricity and compute on Earth. And even if electricity were to go down, it would come back online. So it's an interesting philosophical sort of view as you think about the world in which we live, and as we look back and how much of our knowledge of our history is accurate.
And actually, you already touched the topic about the internet, and you actually call the blockchain the fourth industrial revolution, and often ranking it second only to AI and its potential impact. And as we move deeper into the era of artificial intelligence, how do you envision the future of the internet taking shape? And do we talk about about Web3, or are we evolving and moving to something like Web4, Web5? Because that's a lot of, talking about that. What can you say about that?
I'm not sure there's much of a difference between Web3 or Web4, if we want to call it that. AI certainly is something that people are experiencing. And clearly with your large language models, which is mostly what people are dealing with when they're interacting with AI, whether it be their Groks or their ChatGPTs, their Geminis. I mean, clearly AI is having a massive impact on the world, combined also with robotics, where blockchains meet those technologies is, as we think of like the Internet of Things, the idea that AIs and robots effectively can transact. This type of technology is likely essential for their participation in the economy itself. Think of the basic level of vending machine that can restock itself. A vehicle. When we talk about autonomous cars that can pay for itself and become an autonomous sort of working agent in the world, not just as software. Yeah, but no, these are clearly the technologies that are having a massive impact on the world in which we live. Web3, on the other hand, is, if you think of Web 1, which is the original concept of the internet, it was the idea of the democratization of information, making information effectively available to everyone, had a lot of lofty sort of goals in terms of how that would be architected. Web 2, I would argue, is that system effectively being captured by a small group of winners that you would refer to perhaps today as big tech, and where the most precious resource in the world historically was gold, and then black gold or oil, and today it's your data. The most precious resource in the world is your data. And the main way that big tech has captured its trillions of dollars of value is in the monetization of your information, without what I'd say is really your informed consent. You don't know where your data is, who has your data, and even if you did, how to reclaim your data. And so that's, I think, at its core, what Web3 is, promising, which is a world where informed consent exists, that you own your digital data or your digital DNA, and that you would enter into agreements with, call it tech where you have control over your information and you have economic participation, and that big tech will compete for your consent. And even if we talk about ideas like universal basic income, for example, when humanity is participating in the economics of their creation, which is their digital DNA, then in theory, it's a way that the entire world can participate in the value they create. And I think that's at its core what Web3 is offering or promising, though it's been slow going because the consumer side, it takes a while to build on this new architecture.
Definitely. And, you touched upon this topic of universal basic income because I was reading and watching a lot of your interviews and when you did a campaign too, right? So you talked a lot about this universal basic income. I was very interested. I don't know if you want also a little bit explain about that. We also was actually working on that concept as well. So, and it's interesting. How did you want to really make this happen? Like the universal basic income, was it like through the cryptocurrency or it's like in different ways? How you saw that?
One is, again, if you look at AI and robotics, they are taking our jobs. And they will likely continue to do so at an accelerated rate. And so in a world where jobs are disappearing, what are we going to do? And we're going to have to find a way for some sort of social system to exist. And the most basic is making sure that people are at least being paid for what they create and have some sort of economic participation where value isn't just being captured by a couple of companies, but rather everyone is at least participating in some way. And so that's where these ideas come from. It's just kind of thinking through what are the problems that we as a people are going to have in the future. And it transcends nation states and their borders, right? Clearly, I think about these things in the context as an American and living here in the United States, but also it's not confined to a nation. It's a global problem. And some things that we might be able to do, other nations won't be able to do because of their, call it current conditions. And so how do we as creators, as builders, architect systems that will hopefully solve for some of these problems, though? I share the view that I think Elon Musk has, which is I'm not afraid of that future. I think that we can build a future that is so abundant that we can, all do well from it. But it requires people going in with that intention and that design, in terms of architecting systems. So, buckle your seatbelt. The future's coming, and it's coming faster than those people realize.
Thank you so much for really thinking about that ahead, because that's so much important, and that's the reality. And I'm ready to buckle my seatbelt.
Already ready or not?
Yeah, whatever.
The future's coming. Because I like to say the future's going to happen to you, or it's going to happen with you.
Exactly. I love that your quote, and actually, it's so much actually in a simple term explained to people, why they have to participate, and be involved in the society. If we talk about your past, so for sure that was not always like a straight path, I would say, right? And we all have like our ups and downs, I would say. So what helps you to go through the, storms, I would say? How do you, coach your internal dialects and transform, and you lost your lessons, let's say? So what's helped you?
Well, I think you tend to learn more from your losses or your struggles. You certainly feel them more. Your good times you often take for granted. It's the other times that the bitterness of it makes it so memorable. Well, but also through that is the reflection, right? And where do you go? And wherever you are in your life, I mean, it's this too shall pass, right? It's learn your lessons from every difficult situation. So hopefully you don't end up having to repeat that lesson. I think is just general words of wisdom that apply to everybody. And I mean, it's part of the natural process. Life is, it has its ebbs and its flows, and you should always be prepared for that contrast, and that contrast gives it its, the perspective, that makes life so exciting. So if you're in any of those places in life, don't let it get you down. Just keep moving forward, and that too shall pass.
Yeah, remember that this is a lesson. Thank you so much.
And learn the lessons.
Yeah, it's better to learn because they are repeating, right?
Yeah, they'll keep repeating.
Yeah. All right. So, I was thinking about, that you could have simply lived like a billionaire, like do nothing, not caring about anyone, or our society. But you said yourself that at some point, money stopped being your measure of success, and that your measure of success now is your positive impact on the world. And that a true billionaire is someone who touches the lives of billions of people. And my question is, why did you start to care so deeply about people, about our society? Was there any specific moments, or probably a story, that actually changed the way you see your role in this world?
Well, if you think of life as a game, right? What is the objective? Right? It's a very diverse world in which it's to some degree choose your own adventure. And I went into the options menu of life and said, how am I going to measure, success in my life? And personal achievement for selfish reasons just doesn't seem like a very interesting objective, and certainly one that can get old very quickly. A game of accumulation for accumulation's sake isn't all that interesting. So how does one measure their success? And it seems to me that you can't take the money with you. So how are you going to measure what you've done in your life? And I think that the positive impact on others is probably the best metric by which to measure one's success. It's not about what you have, but what you did. And the impact it's had on the lives of others, I think, is a good way to measure one's success if you're fortunate enough. I'm blessed in that regard. When you're, in a fight for survival, it's easily said. I've been blessed that, fortunately, I've not had to spend much of my life struggling like that. But when you do get the luxury of being able to sit back and choose, I hope everyone chooses wisely.
That's true. And, not everyone does this way. I truly appreciate our conversation because I personally truly believe that more and more people should hear your voice, your story. The next question I wanted to ask, you dedicate so much of your time to serving people, and you touch really so many people's lives, and you do a lot of projects, so many initiatives. So what helps you to see the best in people, to keep striving, to really help people, to love people, and to really do so many things for the benefit of society?
I think it's always good to find the best in people, try to help cultivate the best aspects of people, right? I like to think that, we all have the potential to be superheroes, and finding what people's gifts are and hopefully finding ways to bring those gifts out in the most, positive way. But that's it's generally just how you view the world. Though it can also be very disappointing. I just choose to try and see the best in everything. It's as I like to say, I'm always grateful, and I go through life with an attitude of gratitude and appreciation. I don't take anything for sort of granted, and I have very low expectations, which does make it easy. to see the best in people because I don't expect that much of them. But looking for the diamonds, those that are shining bright and, want to do great things. That's how I go through life.
Talking about the gratitude, so what are maybe 3 things that you're most grateful for today?
Well, let's start with today. The present moment. That always, and clearly health. I'm in good health, right? Real wealth is health. I'm able to get up and enjoy this day and be impactful in the world. And, more than anything else right now is my family. I'm very blessed with another child and, the things that we're ultimately here to work for, right? It's not even really about me, right? It's about what we did in the time that we were here and how we left the world for the generations that follow. It's why, I get up every day to do the things that I do. And it's not so much for me, it's for the world that we leave behind.
You work with a lot of leaders, global thinkers, innovators from basically every corner of the globe. That's a lot of cultures, different religions, political backgrounds as well. And that's so interesting that in those high stakes rooms, what is the one, let us say, common thread of humanity you found that existing regardless of this culture, regardless of religion, geography, political views? What do all people have in common in your view, and what unites us all?
Well, I think it's at its core, we're all here in human bodies experiencing life and striving for, tomorrow. Whatever our religious backgrounds, certainly those that have religious beliefs usually, they're easier to work with because they're generally mindful of, call it, consequence, and the belief that their life has purpose and meaning. So generally, those with a belief system inherently have some sort of advantage just due to their beliefs. But whatever it is, as I like to say, it's mostly all Venn diagrams. Whatever your religious belief, your political belief, or geographic location, most of those circles overlap. And at its core, we all need the same things. And then even our wishes and desires beyond that are often quite similar. And if anything, we're arguing about tactics or approaches to achieving those goals. But in general, we mostly want the same things. We're mostly the same. We see difference where there's actually not all that much.
We can celebrate them. If we take a look in our world right now, right? So we really live in a world that feels like very much polarized right now. But based in your experience, what is in this, like, let us say, coliseum of politics and global finance, what are maybe 3 practical steps, like really when you have this in practice, we can all take when we want to, find a common dialogue, common ground with the people that we completely disagree with, let us say?
Well, often if you sit down with someone that you really disagree with, you'll often find that common ground. Again, despite major differences, most of the time you can sit down with someone and you're going to find how much you actually have in common. Now, yes, we do live in a world that's very polarized right now. And on either end of that spectrum, you do have a small subset of people that are very stubborn, that have such strong beliefs in their views that they're more difficult to reason with. And it's on both sides. And I think that more than anything is those of us that are centrists, that live anywhere in a pretty big field in the center, at least find our common ground, because it's a small minority of people on the extreme ends of religion, politics, and otherwise are dictating and deciding the future for the majority, the large majority And that's what's dangerous. And the onus is on anyone that doesn't fit into those extreme sort of examples that are normally not willing to reason or even engage, and to engage with those that you may disagree with. And you'll find out that you have a lot in common, because hopefully we find peace on earth. Right now we're still have war in the world. I imagine if you'd asked most of us 25 years ago, would new wars be starting in 2025? I imagine many would have thought we would be transcending that. And certainly with technologies, we're hopefully nearing the point where we can find peace on earth, and that's from a war perspective, but also in sort of a live and let live. Hopefully we can find that path forward, because it is scary, the amount of polarization that we're seeing in the world. Most of that polarization, again, is coming from small groups on either end of that spectrum. It's the vast majority of people are quite good at coexisting.
That's true. Even, I can mention here that we did a biggest social survey in the world. I would say we asked people in 180 countries how they want to live and what unites us all. And they all mentioned, we live in this. We want to, all the same things. That was so eye-opening. It was some years ago. I started, I think, in 2017 or so. But that was so amazing to see that. And that's explaining what, of course, you said. And I think that's where your quote is coming, that or we want to win together or we want to lose together. And we actually have to understand that, right? And basically, I would say, go forward to this quote and understanding more.
Well, we're ultimately all
in position to be together.
We're ultimately all in this together.
Yeah,
we're going to fail together. Unless, you think that your perspective is just going to dominate the other perspective to the point that it's not going to exist anymore. The only other answer is we somehow find coexistence.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, continually pray that we find our way.
Yeah, and thank you so much for fighting for the peace in the world, because I saw a lot of things that you're trying to do, and not trying to do, you're doing this. And nowadays it's so much important as never before, I would say. And here's also another question. You often mention voluntarism as a core belief, right? And how do you think, how can we basically move to a society driven by contribution and passion? What do you think, how can we move to it?
Well, I mean, going back to, as we talk about AI and robots and the ways that the world is changing, I think that one of the Japanese terms I like best is ikigai. I used to actually incorporate a lot of Japanese concepts into my speeches, but ikigai is, again, a Venn diagram that's talking about what you're good at, what are your skills, what the world needs, and what you're passionate about. And then the fourth part is what you can get paid for. I'm not sure the being paid is as an essential element, but it's what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you're passionate about. At the center of that is your life's purpose. And if you become extraordinary at anything, whatever that is, from a monetization perspective, you'll likely be paid well because you're gifted. And if not, you're at least doing something that you deeply love, that none of what you do actually feels like work. And I believe that we all have that. And part of life is the pursuit of discovering that, because it makes life very pleasant
and
purposeful and passionate.
And that's the way you contribute. So that's...
I believe that every one of us is here for a reason. And I believe that, we all matter. And finding your purpose. And I hope that as the world changes, as I like to say, a lot of people, work to live or to survive. When you eliminate that need in the world, if we're so fortunate, then what happens is people get to, live to work, live to contribute, right? Live to participate or volunteer in some way. And at that point, when it's more of a choice than a necessity, you're going to find that thing that is most fulfilling and likely by nature will end up contributing.
I like that plan. And that's amazing. And that would be
But it also
really
requires participation, right? I mean, again, the future is going to happen to us or with us. I pray that we co-create an optimal future that can work for everyone.
I also like your quote that I don't want to see a revolution. I want to see an evolution. And I very much agree with you because we need this path to evolve. And what do you mean by this idea of evolution rather than revolution? And what steps in your view actually lead to this kind of evolution in our society?
Well, I mean, unless you're living under a rock, you can see the world is changing, and it's changing pretty rapidly. And during that change, sometimes old systems, old ideologies, old things have to go away. And so the idea is, the new and the old hopefully winning together, right? Rather than opposition, it's that co-creation, allowing the old to win with the new so that you're not having so much of a revolution or, call it a lot of opposition and friction, which creates more chaos and suffering. The idea is how do we, chart that course into the future and a joint evolutionary event, minimize the R because the revolution is normally the part that is, messy. And so hopefully we can find as much evolution and as little revolution in this process as possible, but revolution also happens if there's no other way. I mean, the future is going to happen. We are living in times of change. I just prefer to find the most peaceful process. Though change is never easy. It happens at the individual level. It's happening at the, the collective level. And it's a big part of it is embracing the change, right? It's human nature to fear that which we don't understand. It's human nature to be comfortable, in the status quo, that which we know. And so I just, I hope everyone has an open mind, individually and collectively, and often from that mindset, you're again better prepared to be the beneficiary of change rather than sort of the revolutionary mindset of trying to stop change, which you can't.
Which is impossible.
Yes.
How can you say in the short way or the way you want it? So what does this future look like for you, which you really want to see?
Well, I mean, it's back to, how big do we want to get? We've already talked about, I think, the loftiest goals, which are peace on earth, minimizing suffering. I mean, let's just talk a macro goal, call it heaven on earth. And let's start from that. And then how close can we get to heaven on earth, right? Back to Elon Musk, interplanetary. But can we build that sort of world? Which includes things we've said, peace on earth, and the idea that people are having to work to survive. Can we end starvation? Can we cure disease? And if you look at all of these things right now, we're very close to like cracking the code on all of these things, and hopefully we thread the needle just right now. Because at the same time, depending upon how you're looking at the world, it can be very scary right now. On the one hand, it looks like, everything might be coming to an end. But on the other hand, life on earth has never been better. Never have we been, in a place where life is so good. Better than it's ever been. So hopefully we keep moving wisely in the right direction. And we're going to experience it. It's happening like this is in our lifetimes. This is not, we're not talking hundreds of years from now. This is happening.
And it's so excited.
It's happening now. And it's an exciting time.
Do you have maybe a question that you find yourself asking over and over again?
I mean, for long periods of time, I've explored all sorts of things. And, part of it was always trying to see, can you change? Can you help people that are, I've spent a fair amount of time finding some people that I found to be suffering the most, and to see if you can give them a hand out of their, call it, place of suffering. Unfortunately, a lot of the lessons there have been failed experiments. But that doesn't mean that there isn't hope. I like to think this is a redemption story, and there's always hope. But everything in due course and in its time.
What do you say is failure story?
Oh, I've gone into helping, people that have been hurting immensely, and back to the drawing board sometimes. I've had a number of meaningful successes, but I've also had a long string of hard lessons. It's easy to see all the positive things, but it's, I'm an explorer, not just a creator. That I'm always exploring the depths, all things, including humanity itself, right at its core, right? And our reality, is a reflection of us, a reflection of the collection of us. If you want to change the world, change the self, right? Be the change you want to see in the world. And so I always socially exploring all facets of society, and trying to understand how to be of highest service.
Brock Pierce, if you had a chance to speak at all people at the same time, let us say, what would be the message that you want to make sure they remember?
Well, I think as you said, each one teach one, right? You lead or live, by example, and the most important thing is that, everyone matters. We're all here for a reason. And, your gratitude is a, great place from which to operate and live. And, these are the main things. We're ultimately all in this together. And, your life matters. Your life has meaning. Find your purpose and be the change you want to see in the world. Again, the future is going to happen to you, or it's going to happen with you. And if we all want to co-create, call it heaven on earth, we will have heaven on earth. This is the way. And it's very easy for sometimes people to not see that. And if for nothing else, it's for the children, for the next generations. Like even when it's hard for you, perhaps in whatever moment and whatever it is that you're going through in life, also, that will likely pass at some point, no matter how painful or unfortunate it might be. But forgiveness of self, right? It starts with forgiving yourself so you can forgive others, right? And have compassion for others. These are the basic principles. Yeah. Love is the answer. Love is the key.
Thank you very much. We're so grateful for your time today. Wish you all the best, and thank you for being this example to all the people, to humanity.
Well, thank you